بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Beloved brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, for our final fiqh lesson this year. As we know, we are concluding our programs this week, Alhamdulillah. For our final fiqh lesson, I thought I will deviate from Bab al-Tayammum and just look at, I think, fiqh that is quite relevant and applicable this time of the year, the fiqh of the salah of the traveler. In December, in January, most of the questions that I receive are from people traveling, confirming these rulings. And so I thought very briefly, inshallah, this evening, I'm going to go through the salah of the traveler, looking at the qasr and the jam, inshallah. So the salah of the traveler, basically when we discuss this area in fiqh, we look at the shortening of salah and the joining of salah. These are the two areas that we take into consideration. So some terms that should be understood, Arabic terms that must be understood in this area of fiqh, include the word safar, travel, the word musafir, a traveler. So we talk about the salah if you are on safar, on travel, or the salah for a musafir, a traveler. And then the term muqim, to be resident in the place or the town where you live. We have the word qasr, which means a shortened salah, to make taqsir of the salah, to shorten it. Jam', sometimes the youngsters say jump salah. No, you're not jumping the salah at all. Jam' means to joining salahs. Taqdeem, and this is important for niyyah. If you're going to be making your niyyah, you're going to either, and there's jam' occurring, joining of salah, in your niyyah you recite taqdeem or ta'khir. So you need to know these two words. Taqdeem is to bring the salah forward, and ta'khir is to delay the salah, to push it to another waqt. And then the word waqt, the period of salah. So quickly, what are the conditions to be a traveler? You must meet the following 5 conditions to be considered a musafir, a traveler. When do these affordances come into play? Once you are considered a musafir, a traveler. The first, the nature of your travel must be for a good purpose. Well, in reality, it should not be for a bad purpose. So if you are traveling to attend a disco in another city, you are not a traveler. The affordances are not granted because the purpose of your travel is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it must be something good or neutral, but not explicitly bad. Secondly, the distance that must be traveled from the edge of the last houses of the city. The edge of the city, the last houses. So if a city expands, the very last houses. Once you pass the last houses, you start calculating a distance of 81 kilometers from that point. So not 81 kilometers from your home, but from the edge of the city. So last year they asked me, if you go from Galvin Park, Takwa to Skunis, can I start counting? No. Skunis is part of the city. So we look the last houses of the city. Third area, condition, the shortening, qasr, will only take place in raka'at, in 4 raka'at salah. Salahs that have 4 raka'at. Shortening applies to that, which would be your dhuhr, your asr, your isha. The intention for shortening and or joining, qasr or jam, must be made before you make takbiratul ihram. It must have been included in your intention, your niyyah. So you can't be in your salah, have made your niyyah, intending 4 raka'at, then decide in your salah, I want to change my mind because, hey, I just realized I'm a musafir. No. It must have been included in your niyyah before takbiratul ihram. And then a muqim, a resident, may not lead shortened salah. So you go to a masjid, the imam is there, he is resident, you're visiting George, Neisner, wherever it might be, Grahamstown, you're visiting, the Imam is resident and he sees you are a group of travelers. Fiqh does not permit him to lead a shortened salah. So you can't go to the Imam and say, okay, we don't know what to do. Can you just make two for us? Because we musafir. You can't transfer it to him because he is resident. Right. So how far must one travel to be a musafir? Let's go into the opinions. The Hanafi and Shafi'i madhabs, they vary in the views, but it ranges from 79 kilometers to 88 kilometers. If you take the different opinions within the Shafi'i and Hanafi schools of thought. But the preponderant view is 81 kilometers that we often rely on. And then the Zahiri madhab, along with the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah and Uthaymeen, Shaykh Uthaymeen, they use the opinion that as long as you consider yourself a traveler, if you attribute that to yourself, then the affordance is granted. This is so you find in our city some people say, well, if I'm a traveler, it applies. That is the fatwa they are following. And in the schools of the Shafi and Hanafi, you must reach your required distance of 81 kilometers. Are there minimum and maximum periods? So there is no minimum period for you to be a traveler. Even if you traveled 81 kilometers and you are there for only 3 hours, you are a traveler for those 3 hours, right? There is no minimum period as long as the distance has been reached. You are permitted to be a traveler for a maximum of 3 days, excluding your day of arrival at your destination and your day of departure from your destination. So if you are traveling and you are intending, inshallah, I am going to Durban, right? So you leave PE. So from your day of arrival in Durban, that is excluded, then you have 3 days, excluding your day of departure. Now an important point, very important point, there's a misconception here. The affordance of the 3 days is granted if you had made the intention that I'm not going to exceed 3 days, excluding day of arrival and departure. So you arrive in Durban and you tell yourself, or you, as you are traveling and you get to Durban, I'm only going to be here 2 days and then I'm leaving. Maybe you have a flight booked or a ticket booked, whatever. Then you are musafir for that full period. If you reach Durban and you tell yourself, I'm going to spend the week here, definitely I booked 7 nights stay at that hotel. You are no longer musafir from your minute of arrival. You don't say, I still have 3 more days left. That's the affordance. That is the misunderstanding. Your affordance is granted on the niyyah. So when you reached Durban, your niyyah was to be muqim for the 7 days, or whichever destination. So then you take the ruling of residence, so the affordances of safar have lifted, because you're no longer a traveler. When you reached Durban, you told yourself, I am, resident in this place. And then the maximum period of broken up travel, meaning you wing it. Many people, mashallah, the garden route, they say, okay, I'm going to travel, I'm going to see how it goes. Spend 2 nights in Plettenberg Bay, maybe see how it is in George, how's the vibe there, go beach to nice. You decide. So the Shafi'i madhab permits a maximum of 19 days of playing around, if I could put that in that manner, of breaking up your travel. You have a maximum of 19 days. In the Hanafi madhab, 15 days. So after 15 days, you are now muqim wherever you are. The affordance, unless you had now traveled again and it was clear in that period, so you became muqim and you change over to musafir, that would be permitted. So which salahs may be shortened and joined? Qasr, shortening is permitted for 4 raka'at salah. That would be your dhuhr, your asr and isha. Those salawat become 2 each, right? Jam is when you join salawat. Very important point. Many get this wrong as well. The joining of salawat occurs within couplets. Dhuhr and asr are coupled, and maghrib and isha are coupled. You can't join all 4. This is not permitted. So with between Dhuhr and Asr, that's a couplet, meaning Asr could be joined with Dhuhr or Dhuhr may be joined with Asr. This is permitted. In other words, in Dhuhr's waqt, you make Asr. Or Dhuhr enters and you're traveling and you decide, I want to make ta'khir, I want to delay this Dhuhr. Permitted for you, you then make it in the waqt of Asr. Then you would make it in the sequence of the awqat, right? Unless there is a jama'ah salah. So if you get a jama'ah salah and they are performing, then you'd follow the jama'ah salah that is performing. But if you're on your own group of, and you probably notice this, that a group of travelers always make their salah on their own in jama'ah, because they get the reward of jama'ah and they're applying their fiqh in their grouping. So if you are a group, a family, group of friends or a family traveling, you go to a masjid, you can perform on your own as a jama'ah, you get the reward of jama'ah, but in these couplets, Dhuhr Asr and Maghrib Isha. Maghrib either pushed to Isha's waqt, or Isha's waqt, yes, or Isha's salah brought earlier to Maghrib. But no pushing everything to the night. Forbidden. So let me quickly go into some related issues and I close with this inshallah. Some questions that I've put together. If you delay a salah beyond its waqt as a traveler, right? And you arrive at your destination as a resident, right? You delay, let's make an example. You delay your dhuhr, you're on the road, dhuhr time, and you arrive at your destination and you are going to be muqim. Do you perform the dhuhr 2 or 4? What do you think? Someone said 4. Anyone going for 2? Okay, mashallah, the answer is 2. So the ruling, there's nothing wrong, of course, with performing 4. But you base it upon when the waqt entered. What was your hal, your condition? So in the waqt of dhuhr, you were a musafir. When it entered, you were a musafir and you made intention to delay it. So you now reach your destination, Asr is upon you, Dhuhr 2 is upon you. Because the ruling of being muqim, resident, applies to the waqt that you are in. So you always consider what waqt, what was your hal, your condition when the waqt entered. The second question, if you performed a salah in a previous waqt, you made jam taqdeem, right? You are traveling, Dhuhr is in, and you make Dhuhr and you make Asr. You bring Asr earlier, right? Jam taqdeem. Bring it earlier, and now you reach your destination after Asr. It's not yet Maghrib. You reach your destination, do you repeat Asr? The children say no, you are right. Alhamdulillah, I must always go with the children when it comes to Salatul Safar. You know, they always look for the shortcuts. No repeating. That is the correct view because you had made it already. You had performed it already. The only thing that would override that is if you reach a masjid and there's a jama'ah for Asr, it is preferred that you get the reward of the jama'ah, even though you had performed it. But many ulama have indicated it's not necessary, but you can get reward for it. Should sunnah salah be performed when you are in musafir? When you're performing qasr, jam, should sunnah salah be performed? No. Because if Allah had permitted that your fard salah is shortened, that is the gift from Allah, that you shorten, that you join, it's Allah's gift to you and me. Then we don't make sunnah, because the fard had already been lifted. Okay? The only exception to that is witr in the Shafi'i madhab. Witr is wajib in Hanafi madhab, and the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr salah. You'd perform that as well because they are sunnah mu'akkada. If you stop at a masjid while traveling and the resident imam is leading 4 rak'at salah, what do? You get to George, mashallah, it is dhuhr, the imam is leading the salah 4 rak'at, but you are a musafir, you can make 2, what do? You take the jama'ah salah and you accept the 4 rak'at. You don't remain seated once the imam goes up for 3rd rak'ah. you must follow the imam until the end. So you'd make the 4. Of course, if the salah is done, then of course you'd make your 2. You didn't get the fard salah, jama'ah salah, then you'd make the 2 on your own. If you know, very important question as well, Jazakallah khairan to the Haji who sent this to me. If you know that you will definitely be traveling during the next waqt, can you make jam taqdeem whilst you are still a resident? So you are in PE, Dhuhr is in, you make Dhuhr, but you have a flight that takes off 5 minutes before Asr enters. And you are going to land after Maghrib. Now you ask yourself, what do I do? So the question is, even though when Dhuhr had entered, you are still in your hometown, you're still in PE, can I bring my Asr forward? Jam taqdeem. So in the Shafi'i school of thought, it is permitted. If you are sure that at Asr's waqt you are going to be a traveler, but you are not permitted to make qasr. You can only join jam, but you can't make qasr of Asr, because when you are performing that Asr, you are still muqim, resident. So you can bring it earlier if you know that Asr, I'm going to be a traveler. If you did that and your flight was delayed, you got a notification, your flight is delayed by 4 hours. Now Asr enters, you're not a traveler. What do? Do you repeat Asr or does that suffice? You repeat, yes. Excellent fuqaha in the masjid, mashallah. You repeat because you are not a traveler. So when you performed it earlier, you had assumed you were going to be a traveler. But now that the waqt entered, you must repeat it because you are still muqim. Okay? And then the last question, can salah be performed on a plane? So the madhahib differ on this, but the general opinion is yes, salah can be performed on a plane. In your seat, you would not stand up. The safety regulations don't permit a person standing up on a plane. You'd perform your salah in a seat and you'd take the positions to the best of your ability. Without standing up, you'd remain seated, you'd make ruku', your sujood would be as far front as possible, and you'd use those affordances. But in fiqh, salah on the ground is better than salah on the plane. So you must look at your itinerary and say, well, if I bring something earlier or if I delay, that is preferred to perform salah on ground. Why? Because you get qibla, without a doubt. On the plane, you have to take the direction of the plane. The affordance is granted for the plane. Now, on a plane, people ask, how do I find qibla? Now, how on earth are you going to turn around on your seat if qibla is behind you? Impossible. So you take the direction of the plane. But look at whether you can perform salah on the ground and not really on the plane. Try and move awqat around to do that, inshallah. And so that is Salatul Safar summarized for us. I'm sorry if I rushed, but I wanted to cover these points. And inshallah, you are ready to travel, inshallah. Okay? And you accept the rukhsah from Allah. So sometimes people say, no, I want to make the 4, more reward. Allah had permitted the qasr in the jam. So accept the rukhsah, the concession, and inshallah your reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, any questions before I close? Okay, Jazakallah khairan. May Allah keep everyone safe on the roads, inshallah, and on the flights. May you be safe on travel. May Allah keep you and your family safe and return you safely, inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Muhammadin rabbil alameen. Our next fiqh will be next year, inshallah, when the programs resume. Shukran.